Folks, I'm going to be with you in that's just stupid. I'm going to be with you in just a second, okay? Just a second. Or 60. If you happen to be catching this on demand, you might want to skip forward by, I don't know, 2 minutes maybe. I'm going to be right with you. A lot of stuff happening right now, just as I'm about to go on the digital airwaves. A lot of stuff happening in Iran. I'm just now catching wind of it. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about Catholic identity, Catholic confidence. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of points about that. I'm going to tie it all together, talking about the news or the update from the situation at Notre Dame, tie it all together. And I'm going to open up talking a couple of minutes about what's going on in Iran. So I'm just getting a couple of ducks in a row. Just be patient. Let's do it, darling. Let's do it. That is not a flattering still frame. Not flattering. Press play. That one's not flattering either. Play. Pause. All right. Flat crazy, B. Crazy. Okay. Let's hit it. Hit it hard. Absolutely crazy. Hello, AI Fields and Jan or Jan, depending on where you're from. Thank you for joining me there at home base at Substack. You got me there at theforge.fm. Second to none in all of Catholic media. That ain't marketing speak, baby. No, sir. All right, man, let's get on this. Son of a... That would explain it. It's the wrong button. All right, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Catholics of all ages, I welcome you to Firebranded. I'm TJ Haynes, the undisputed technician of the truth. And today we're talking to you about some of that truth. We're talking about Catholic identity. We're talking about Catholic culture. We're talking about Catholic confidence. You got to have a little. In fact, you better have a lot, my man, my girl. And talking about that. At the top of this, I'm not sure how much of this I'll leave in the edited version. I'm going to talk about the situation in Iran. Why? Because I'm literally just now hearing this, so we're going to learn about it together, or maybe you know all about it, and I'm the one who's behind. This is recorded live on February 28th in the year of our Lord, 2026, and I thank you all for joining me. Let's fade that music out, get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States and Israel have launched attacks on Iran. The Ayatollah Khomeini, who has ruled Iran for, I think, 30 years, is dead. The Ayatollah is dead. Fox News reporting, whoops. All right, I'm going to have to get that on the screen for you in a second. I forgot to plug in that cable. Fox News reporting Iran's Supreme Leader Khomeini dead after IDF strike hits Tehran compound, Israeli source confirms. Now, I'm going to need to go to this screen a few times, so I have to take a pause here and connect this cable. Just give me a moment. Please, God, don't let the whole thing blow up once I connect that cable. Oh, man. Actually, something doesn't look right there, but it's working right in the broadcast, so I'm just going to go with it. All right, Fox News reporting, Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei dead after IDF strike hits Tehran compound, Israeli source confirms. Most of this stuff I'm going to talk to you about, like almost all of it, I don't know what's going on. Okay? So if I sound ignorant and stupid as I'm going through this, if I express shock and surprise, that's all genuine. Hello to Blake joining me in the chat room. I promise I'm only going to spend a couple of short minutes on this because I don't really do secular news. I don't often do even Catholic news. This is not what I do, but it's the elephant in the room. Okay? So I really think I'm going to cover it, at least for the live audience. Maybe I'll edit it out for the on-demand viewer. Let us see. Let us see. All right. So here's a brief checklist of what's going on. Come on, man. Okay, here's a brief checklist of what's going on. I posted this to X. All right. Again, it's not generally what I do. Son of a gun. There we go. It's not generally what I do, okay? So if it's a little inelegant, forgive me. Breaking news. What the hell just happened in Iran? I'm just now hearing about this. Couple of things to be aware of. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. Strikes have been targeting Iran's missile and nuclear program. Now, I thought their nuclear program was like destroyed. Didn't that happen a couple of months ago? What is that? Did they have more that we didn't know about? Did they have more that we didn't strike? I thought that was a done deal, but what are you going to do? That's the scenario. Strikes have been targeting Iran's missile. Now, Iran did, at least past tense, they did have a very powerful missile program, very powerful, and they're leveraging that missile power, the power of their missiles program, as we speak. Iran retaliated, firing dozens to hundreds of missiles at Israeli and U.S. military target. At Israel, there we go. It's a little bit better. Test. Okay. Let me back up and do that again. Iran retaliated, firing dozens to hundreds of missiles at Israel and at U.S. military targets in Bahrain. Check this out. This is a really extensive list. Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, as well as Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. The operation is ongoing. My first reaction is, I can't say it on the air. I'm trying not to use swear words in my lives. But holy S, where did this come from? Last I knew, we were in the middle of negotiations. Wasn't much of a negotiation. It's not a negotiation when the other party is not interested in negotiating and they're just, paying lip service. It's not a negotiation then. But okay. Last I heard, we had walked away, or we had concluded an attempt at negotiation with Iran to bring an end to their nuclear program. Iran was not flinching. They were not interested. So that ended, and today we're bombing Iran. We're launching military strikes on Iran. I knew that might be coming if Iran didn't act with goodwill. I knew that might be coming, but I did not expect it would happen so soon and so abruptly. So I'm really, really surprised that they took out the Ayatollah. Totally shocking. Totally shocking. I don't think it's inappropriate. I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. I mean, folks, I understand you and I may not have the same opinion about Iran, military strikes. I'm not really I am a former military Marine. I don't shy away from, the idea of combat and just wars. But I'm really not a war dog. I'm the first one to try and even in my personal life, I'm the first one who wants peace, not conflict. I'm not talking about myself. I'm going somewhere with this. I don't like fighting. I'm the first one to try to avoid a fight. But when a fight needs to happen, I'm the Incredible Hulk. I was famous for that in the Marine Corps. I'm not really bragging about that. I was famous for that in the Marine Corps. That's kind of my philosophy here. You always have to try to maintain or obtain peace. But sometimes a fight just needs to happen, and it needs to be squashed and put behind you. Whether or not we were in that situation right now with regard to Iran, I do not know. If you want my thought right now, okay, without thinking it through too much and doing a whole lot of research, my thinking right now is the Iranian regime needed to go a long time ago. And the last time there was military action against Iran, we should have finished it. That was really between Israel and Iran. All we did was we took out their main nuclear facilities. But if you ask me, between Israel and the United States, we should have finished that. Because that regime is evil. They butcher their own people by the thousands and by the tens of thousands. And there's a real humanitarian crisis going on there. Apart from that, and again, I totally respect if you have a different opinion. I totally respect that. Okay? This is not theology. This is philosophy, right? Different opinions can both be right, sort of. But you could, anyway. So apart from that, they were the number one sponsor of terror. That's not a secret. That is not propaganda. That is not rhetoric. That is the fact. That is the fact of the matter. The UN knows this. The EU knows this. The Middle East knows this, including all of those countries that just received retaliatory action from Iran. They all know this. Okay? Iran is a bad leader, a very bad presence, let's say. Leader is correct, but might not quite paint the picture that I'm trying to paint there. All right? So going back to that list, Iran retaliated, firing dozens to hundreds of missiles. That also included, by the way, drones, okay? Unmanned aerial, whatever the hell. Fired missiles at Israel, as well as U.S. military targets in Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. All of those countries on that list want Iran gone. Not the people, obviously, not even the country, but I mean the regime. All of those countries on that list want Iran, the Iranian regime, gone. Because they know Iran is a major player in the region, not for honest reasons, but because they sponsor state terror and because they have this tremendous missiles program and they were developing a nuclear program. So the sun might be setting, if it hasn't set already, on the Iranian regime. First, because of the obvious reasons, but also because of their retaliatory actions. Now, I don't know what military Iraq has, but Jordan has a very viable military. Saudi Arabia also, very viable. Kuwait, I don't know. UAE, yes. Qatar, yes. Bahrain, yes. So you've just shoved your thumb in the eye of a lot of countries who can hit back fairly hard. Not smart. Okay, take a pause from this. Let me just pay. This website is, by the way, that I'm looking at, is Fox News, if you wanted to know, if you wanted to follow along. I don't know why you'd want to click away from this broadcast, but just in case. I just want to see if there's any other stories worth mentioning or reading. 200 Israeli jets, man, that's crazy. Execute its largest ever flyover in sweeping Iran assault. I'm not going to read these stories. I'm just kind of going through them. Activists mobilize against Iran war, of course, 10 minutes before Trump even announces it. I wonder how much money and whose money is behind that. Had to be an insider who knew that before the rest of the American public did. And, of course, a young version of Wilford Brimley, Shia LaBeouf back in custody, totally unrelated, but this guy, Catholic convert, so I thought, while I'm here, I might as well mention it. Catholic convert now. This is the second time, I think, in 2 weeks or something like that, that he was just arrested. Shia LaBeouf is very troubled. Anyhow, back to it. Apparently, this was something else that I saw. Oh, shoot. Republicans join Democrats to block Trump's military authority over Iran. That might be justified or justifiable. I don't know. I mean, the president should not have sole and, I guess, unilateral authority. Is that the right word? Is that the right way to use that word? I'm not very literate, in case you didn't know. I don't think the president should have total control over the military like that, unless it's like in a direct response to imminent threat. That would be different. Maybe there was one. I don't know. Details are still sketchy. This is a story that's still developing. So I would caution all of you, no matter where you fall on the political or theological or philosophical spectrum, don't be reactive. Okay? Wait and let the details unfold. Okay? Wait and let the details unfold before you respond. And even then, just respond. Don't react. Okay? Reason, not emotion. And for my last trick, I just want to click here real quick and see if there's anything here worthy of mention. I don't think so. Oh, God. Yeah, sometimes they put like a little checklist. But I'll tell you, the Iranian people must be very, very happy. Oh, God. One of them is a prisoner. The other one is a corpse. Interesting picture. If you're not catching the video, you're only catching this in audio. It was a picture of Maduro and the Ayatollah. Dumb. That Ayatollah, he should have played ball. Very stupid. Do I think he should have been killed? I don't even know if it was targeted and they intended to kill him. I'm not going so far as to say they should have killed him, unless that was the only way to take him out, because I'll tell you, he was very, 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 very dangerous. We've known that for decades. Very dangerous. Okay, I think that's it. That's all I'm going to cover on that. Wow. All right. Let's transition into phase 2, my people. Absolutely crazy. Craziness going on. Just give me a moment. If you need to go take a pee or something, this would be a good time to do it. Just getting a couple of things on the screen here that I might need to reference. Okay. And again, hello and welcome to those of you catching me live. And thank you, those of you who are catching me right now on demand. This is the Fire Branded Podcast, Fire Branded with yours truly, TJ Haynes. And I thank you very much. I'm very honored and humbled that you tapped play on this. Hello to Sydney, catching me there at home base on Substack. And John Hyde, thank you for joining me. Anybody alive yet on? And there's Trad Wolverine. Hey, man. SFC USA and Trad Wolverine catching me there on YouTube. Thank you very much for doing so. Today we're talking about, in case you catch this late, we're talking about Catholic confidence and identity, okay? Man, so in my haste, there were a couple of things I wanted to bring to the foreground that I forgot to, but it's okay. I'll do this from memory. That's how powerful I am. Let's fade that out. Now, listen, this is going to sound like an ad, but it absolutely is not, okay? So I want you to hear me out. This is not, I am going to ask you to subscribe to something later, but that's not what this is. I just published something to YouTube, a video to YouTube. I have to get this off my screen. Every time Fox News updates its homepage now, it's catching my eyeballs. I dropped a video to YouTube just last night and an article at The Forge. The YouTube video talks, let me just get up the title here. The cover says, "The Spanish Inquisition Lies." The actual title of the video is "Spanish Inquisition, the Lies You've Been Told." The article at The Forge is titled, I'll leave links to this in this episode's on-demand page, "From Inquisition to Inquiry, How Knowing Catholic History Builds Confidence." In that article, let me see if I can put this in front of you. In that article, I talk about my early days, young teenager, in the field of Catholic apologetics. This is The Forge, by the way. Doesn't it look beautiful? Young teenager in the field of Catholic apologetics, occasionally intimidated because the people that were picking fights with me, theological, philosophical fights, and some of the people that I was picking fights with knew more than I did. Sometimes my confidence outpaced my quality. That's the truth. So this article is basically the story of how that started and what Catholics should take from it related to Catholic confidence. Catholic confidence, okay? Catholic identity is something else. And in that article at theforge.fm, I've also embedded the YouTube video. The YouTube video talks about facts versus myths concerning the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, so basically the article is the story, the background, and what I learned and what you need to take from it. And then the video is the fruit of that story, things that I learned, discovered, and so on. The reason I bring it up here is because it's important. It's an important lesson to learn related to something I'm I guess, experiencing lately. I don't know a better way to put that. And that is dialogue and discourse with Protestants, which I guess I'm becoming famous for, and it's really not what I want to be famous for. Here's the deal. I am here for my brother and sister Catholics. I have no interest in converting Protestants. I will help. I hope that what I do for Catholics helps the Protestants or pagans or atheists. Of course, that is not my objective. My objective is the betterment of my brothers and sisters in the Catholic faith, okay? To help you to be more informed, nudge you closer to sainthood, help you to learn how to think more clearly. First, to think rather than to emote, to be emotional about something, but to think with your mind, and how to do it more clearly, because there are a lot of people lying to you. It's not just secularists lying to you. It's not just secular media lying to you. It's people in the church. It's people in the pews. It is people in independent Catholic media. Not all, but many. So what I'm trying to do also is to help you to think clearly, to discern truth, to know it when you see it, and to know the lie when you see that, no matter how well disguised as the truth it may be. And these days, they are very, very good at disguising lies to look just like the truth. They convinced tens of thousands a pop. They convince people of lies that actually aren't true. I just addressed, I'm not going to call it out because it was friendly and I don't want to embarrass anybody. I don't want to embarrass anyone even when it's not friendly. But just today, I received a comment on YouTube from someone. I'll get into that exchange later. But one of the things that they mentioned was the church's change of the teaching on the death penalty. I'm not going to get into this right now, folks, but I'm going to say it again. I've covered this to death in articles and podcasts, plural, in the past. Not going to get into it now all over again. But the bottom line is this. The church did not change church teaching on the death penalty. I'm sorry. It absolutely, positively did not, period. There is no argument to the contrary. There is none. 1 + 1 is 2. Gender is binary, and the church did not change teaching on the death penalty. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm sorry if that scandalizes you. I'm sorry if that upsets you because you were so convinced that the church did change that teaching, but it did not. Okay? Not going to get into all that now, all over again. But the reason, now, folks, there is no way in hell, I believe, that let's just throw out a number. 100,000 ordinary Catholics had their faces buried in the catechism of the Catholic Church. Let's knock it off. Let's knock it off. No, you didn't. Most of you, and I say this friendly, even though I don't look like it, most of you didn't have your faces buried in the catechism of the Catholic Church. So let's stop the crap. Do you know why most people think the church changed teaching on the death penalty? Let me go to the chat room. Here we go, getting heated up, man. This is why it's called Firebranded. Let's go to the chat room. Why do you think most people, obviously some of you out there, I'm so sorry, I think this is a little overmodulated. Okay. Obviously some of you out there were knowledgeable of the catechism. I'm not saying none of you read it, but most ordinary Catholics do not and still don't. Let's go to the chat room. Where do you think most people got this idea that the church changed teaching on the death penalty? And by chat room, I'm mostly talking about YouTube and Substack, home base at theforge.fm. Where do you think most people got this false information? Wow, Mountains of Vasilium, you're dropping knowledge, man. You're dropping truth bombs like it's crazy. Trad Wolverine on YouTube says, social media? Yeah. But you have to have it to share it, right? You can't share it on social media if you don't possess it first. Where do you think it came from? For most people, I'm not saying all. Nobody on Substack is chiming in because they're lame. No, I'm just kidding, Substackers. It was, okay, so someone is saying Catholic, but was it Pope Francis? Oh, I'm a new Catholic, but was it Pope Francis? It was not Pope Francis. Okay, let me just chime in here as that music comes to a close. And folks, I want to say this very respectfully. Okay, first of all, I'm a very passionate, fiery person. So when I'm excited about something, I raise my voice, I get animated. Please don't mistake that for hostility. I know it looks like hostility. To anyone outside of my orbit, it looks like hostility. People who know me know that it's not. My hostility looks very, very different. On occasion, you might have seen that on a show or two directed at opposers. But, so when I get animated and fire like this, don't interpret that as hostility toward you. I love you. I'm doing this for you because I love you. I care about you, okay? All right. Most average Catholics do not have their faces buried in the catechism, okay? But many, many, very many Catholics were saying the Pope changed teaching on the death penalty. Where did that come from? Social media? Okay, but somebody had to have it in order to post it to social media. Somebody had to have it in their noggins before they had something to share, before they could share it, whether it's the reporting of it or the knowledge of it. So where do you think this originated? Independent Catholic media. Independent Catholic media had hundreds of thousands, possibly more people, Catholics, believing that Pope Francis changed teaching on the death penalty. Independent Catholic media did that. And their satellite agents, people who don't do blogging, but they're very popular and famous on social media, okay? They're proxies, the proxies of independent Catholic media and low-level bloggers and so on. That's who told you that the church changed, that the Pope changed teaching on the death penalty. It is not true. And I hate to have made this about the death penalty. It really isn't. It's just the example, okay? It's an example of something that is absolutely, flatly false, but misinformation was erected and disseminated, weird words to use, from independent Catholic media, and then poisoned the Catholic culture with it. So what does the Catholic culture do with that? What it receives is the Pope changed teaching. Oh, the Pope broke sacred tradition. What do you do with that? The Pope is untrustworthy. This might be a false church. We have a problem. Let's take cover in the SSPX. Let's take cover in the traditional Latin Mass. Let's take cover in sedevacantism because that probably is the real church. How many people took that and went to sedevacantism with it? Probably not many, but definitely not zero. How many took cover in the SSPX? How many took cover in the traditional Latin Mass communities? It's not an attack of the Mass, in case you don't know me. I'm not anti-TLM. Many took cover. Or if they were already there, they just deepened their cover. What prompted that movement? I'm not going to go all philosophical on you and talk to you about the gravity of promptings and movements, but what prompted that movement? Independent Catholic media and their proxies in social media. So part of what I do here is to help you to think better, to think clean, because the truth is often masquerading. I'm sorry, lies are often masquerading as the truth. Not on my watch, my friends, because I'm an idiot at pretty much everything I'm passionate about, but not when it comes to the truth. I can see it from space. If it's on Earth, I can see it from space. All right. But going back to where I started with this Protestant thing, I'm not here to attack Protestants. I'm not here to convert Protestants. There are Protestants I cross-follow on Substack Notes who I really like. I like what they post, as long as it's not theologically errant. I like their questions. I like answering their questions. I like presenting small challenges to them, challenging their thinking in something that they post. And they do the same to me. This is not, Protestants are my brothers and sisters. This is not anti-Protestant, okay? But I got to tell you, some of this nonsense really needs to stop, okay? When someone, as just recently happened, this is what's sparking this segment, when someone tells me that the Catholic Church's teaching on the Holy Eucharist isn't Christian, I'm sorry, you just told me you believe in unicorns because you live in fantasy land. Okay, so the Catholic Church's teaching of the real presence in the Holy Eucharist, that the Holy Eucharist is the body and blood of the Son of God, Jesus Christ, that's new. Okay, what's your theology? And then insert broken, fractured, distorted, make-believe, theology here in between these brackets. My response to, so in other words, it's metaphor, it's spiritual, he didn't mean literal, and so on. My response to that is, it's very interesting. Do you know that theology was born in the late 1500s? Late 1500s. Do you know my theology dates back at least to 70 A.D.? That's true. Well, it's a lie that your theology, I'm kind of paraphrasing, your theology spans across, 1,500 years before the Reformation. Is it? I'll provide this as an article at theforge.fm. But I wrote a long comment loaded with substance and references of church fathers throughout 1,500 years that wrote about the Holy Eucharist as we teach it today in the Catholic Church of today. Forget about the Bible. I can make a biblical argument, but they've probably heard that a million times before, so I go to the church fathers, because here's the thing. If you want to know what truly is Christian, you need to know what were the Christians doing just after the period of the book of Acts, because that's Christianity, Catholicism, right? Everyone can agree on that. Protestants understand that. Catholics understand that. Okay. Well, how do we get a snapshot of the early church? We can't go there unless you guys have a DeLorean hidden someplace. I would love a ride. I also want to go back to 1985. Please DM me. I'll pay you. Whatever you ask, I'll pay you. If you don't have a time machine, how on earth can you get a snapshot, a picture, an image, a reflection of what the early church was like? What were Christians doing? Because that's what Christianity is. You have to go to the writings of the early church. You have to go to the church fathers. You have to go to the Didache. And I presented, again, I'll put this in like a post-show thing at theforge.fm. Go to theforge.fm, subscribe. It's free. Stop screwing around. Stop being stupid. You know you want to subscribe. Go to theforge.fm and just do that, okay? So you have this in the Didache. You have it in very early second century writings. You have it from folks like Justin Martyr and Irenaeus and several others. I can't recall names right now. But anyway, so this is what I did. I put this long list of who wrote it, what he wrote, and what he said. Like what he wrote, like what was the document, and what did he say in that document. And wouldn't you know, the response was, well, Catholics worship Mary. Did you just say Catholics worship Mary after I set your Eucharistic theology on fire? My friend, if your home is on fire, may God forbid it, do you hang out in the living room and say, well, at least thank God it's only the upper floors? We got some time to sit in the living room. Come on, give me a freaking break already. Listen, if that's how you want to play, fine. I can't force you to accept the truth. But Lord have mercy, don't double down with your anti-Mary nonsense. Please don't do that. Because if you can't understand the basics, why are you even venturing into the nuanced, into the advanced? Why am I bringing this up? Believe me, it's not to gloat, okay? In a second, if you have anything to say or ask in about a minute after I'm done with this explanation, here's how this episode is going to go from this point forward. I'm going to finish this explanation. I'm going to go to the chats to see who's saying what or who's asking what. And then I'm going to tie these things together that I just spoke about and then bring the show to a close, okay? All right. Again, if you're not doing so already, go to theforge.fm and subscribe. It's free. You get my stuff emailed directly to you. There's no middleman. There's no algorithm, okay? Enough said about that. Shoot, where did I leave off? Protestants, Eucharist, don't venture. Anyway, okay, let me just pick up where I left off a moment ago. So, I remember. This is why I'm sharing this with you. These arguments from our Protestant brothers and sisters used to intimidate me to no end. You have no idea, because I didn't know what I was talking about, but I knew they had to be wrong. I'm talking about when I was a young teenager. I knew they had to be wrong, but I really didn't know what I was talking about. Oftentimes, and I said this in the video that I posted last night about the Inquisition, oftentimes I knew just enough to buy myself some time or to not look totally stupid. But they were making very strong arguments that I didn't really know how to respond. 90% of them I did not know how to respond to. What triggered this in the first place? Well, if you don't know what you're talking about, why did you enter the fray? Because they were issuing these arguments to other Catholics, my peers and older Catholics. They were bringing these arguments to other Catholics. And immediately I went into pit bull mode because I'm very protective of my brethren. You have no idea. Here I am. I am very protective of other Catholics, even as a young teenager. So when I saw that, I was not having it. That's why I entered the fray, but I didn't know what I was talking about either. Part of what triggered me was observing that these arguments the Protestants were making, you could see the intimidation and shock on the faces of the Catholics they were giving these arguments to. Okay, and then I entered the fray. Today I hear these arguments, and this is the thing. I used to see these arguments as so strong and so authoritative. Today I view them as absolutely ridiculous. So ridiculous, I don't know how anyone could hold on to these lies. Ridiculous. They used to really intimidate me. This story holds true in my exploration of the facts of the Inquisition, my exploration and research of the facts of the Crusades, my exploration and research into the facts of the Bible, biblical theology, patristic biblical exegesis. Here's what I took from that. Drama cam, please. The Catholic Church is always right. Clear enough? The Catholic Church this is not a blind claim. This is an earned claim. The Catholic Church is always right. Has the church made mistakes? Of course. That's not what I'm not talking about administrative mistakes or even moral mistakes. I'm talking about the church. Functioning as the church is called to function. The salvation of souls, the preservation of apostolic tradition, teaching, preaching, issues of faith, morals. This is what the church is supposed to do, right? This is what it was, I guess, bred for. In those areas, it has never erred. And then you have little historical hiccups like the Inquisition. Did the church err? No, because the church, the Vatican, tried to stop the Inquisition. I'm not going to get into that whole history. The point I'm trying to make is what I learned as I sought and found and processed the truth and allowed it to be challenged. Folks, I've had to go through a lot of correction over my... You know, people think that people say it to me all the time in comment exchanges. You don't like to be told you're wrong. Oh, my friend, do you know how many times I've had to be corrected since I was a young teenager? Holy crap. And I subject myself to scenarios where I can be corrected. I challenge people who know way more than me Try being 13 and picking a fight with a Protestant pastor who's in his like 50s. I was always subjecting myself to opportunities for correction. Not necessarily from Protestants, but that did happen. But from, Catholics and theologians. Meanwhile, I'm like an idiot, subjecting myself to correction, but by theologians whose corrections may hurt because I thought I had this right. It may bruise my ego, but I don't care. I don't want to be correct. I don't want to be right. I want to be correct. Point I'm trying to get at is basically this, and then I'm going to go to the chat rooms to see who's saying what, and then I'm going to conclude the show tying it all together. By the way, follow me everywhere on socials at Real TJ Haynes. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm very active on socials, especially on X, Real TJ Haynes. And if you subscribed to me, to the Forge.fm on Substack, I'm also very active on Substack Notes. Substack Notes is like a Twitter, but with nicer people, smarter people. True. I'm not trying to be snobbish. I'm probably the dumbest person on Notes. So I'm telling you this is a dumb person. Nicer people, smarter people. It's a good app, good platform, great people. So there's that. Real TJ Haynes everywhere on socials. Anyway, so what I took from all of this, all my study, my research, my fumbles, my recoveries, what I learned from all of this is Catholic confidence, because the Catholic Church is always right. The Catholic Church is always right. And the Catholic Church always gets it right. And where the Catholic Church falters, it recovers. Hang on just a second. One of the joys of doing live broadcasts, live podcasts, is there's always somebody who needs you just after you hit record. Anyway, what I took from that was a Catholic confidence that's earned by knowing the church's history, by knowing what the church teaches. Speaking of Catholic confidence and Catholic identity, I know I kind of foibled this just a little bit, but let me just go back to it real quick. This is the Forge.fm. This article here I wanted to bring your attention to. Just a little update on the Notre Dame situation because it comes to bear. So the professor, the pro-abortion, anti-Catholic professor, has, I guess, resigned from Notre Dame. Okay, this is an article I wrote there at the Forge. Bishops stand tall. Resigned. And latest news on that is Catholic students at the university are doing a prayer rally for praying for Catholic identity at Notre Dame. Well, why is it that an anti-Catholic pro-choice, and anti-Catholic is my word based on my interpretation of her record. Okay, that's my opinion. My opinion, anti-Catholic, factual, pro-choice professor. Why did this professor have more moral integrity than the administration at a Catholic university? She resigned. The university did not rescind the appointment. She resigned. She had more moral integrity than the Catholic university had. Why is that? That I really don't know. That's a puzzle I just can't solve. I can tell you some pieces, though. One of those pieces is Catholic culture is deficient. And because Catholic culture is deficient, Catholic identity is deficient. And that's what we're talking about here. And this is part of the tie-in. Catholic identity and Catholic confidence. If you don't have Catholic confidence, you will not have Catholic identity. Or you'll have deficient Catholic identity. You'll have anemic Catholic identity if you do not have Catholic confidence. You have to be careful with that Catholic confidence. You don't want to turn it into a weapon. But for Pete's sake, you have to at least turn it into a shield. And don't be shaken or stirred by what the Protestants are telling you, because some of them make very good argument. Well, they make very good, I'm sorry, Protestants. They make very good sounding arguments, but they're very flawed and deeply flawed arguments. Don't be intimidated by them. Do you know how many in the past week or two, how many really very good sounding arguments against magisterial authority, the papacy, the Eucharist I heard from Protestants in the past couple of weeks. Really, really, really good sounding arguments that might have made me cry when when I was a teenager. But they're not good arguments. They sound great, but they're not good. Sometimes the Protestants that are telling you this just have it wrong, or they're uninformed, or they know zero about church history. They think the church started in the 1500s, not in 33 AD, right? Some of them, though, are not honest players. Some of them are lying to you. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they know it. They just don't want you to be right because you're the Catholic. So don't get shaken by any of their arguments, because take it from an expert in this. I've been doing this since I was a teenager. Their arguments can sound great, and sometimes their arguments, there can be a grain of truth in there, something that you didn't know about before. It hasn't happened often in my experience, but it can happen, okay? Or they might have an angle that it doesn't change the truth, but they might have an angle that doesn't help their argument, but actually strengthens yours, and you will have learned something. But don't be intimidated. If you are not in possession of the facts, get them. Research. It's easy to do these days. It's the digital age. All right, before I start going on and on and on and on, nobody in Substack is saying anything. That's surprising. Usually Substack is the more lively. Let's go. Nope. Yeah, let's go and see a little traveling music there as we see what's going on in the chat rooms. Let's see. Mountains of Vasilium earlier said, as a good priest told me, we need daily conversion. Daily conversion. That's true. Otherwise, it's far too easy to be led astray. That is absolutely true. Conversion from fallen to sainthood, because that's really what heaven is. Conversion from fallen to sainthood is literally a daily process. And I want to tell you, folks, if you feel like you're only making progress in baby steps, I want to tell you that's good, actually. Because an inch, you've heard me say this before, an inch closer to holiness for you is the value of 1,000 miles from heaven's perspective. An inch closer to holiness is the value of 1,000 miles from the perspective of God and the angels and the saints. Step by step, even if it's baby steps, don't lose hope. Don't get frustrated because you think you're not advancing at the pace that you think you should be. To repeat what Mountains of Vasilium said, as a good priest told me, we need daily conversion. Otherwise, it's far too easy to be led astray. Absolutely true. Oh, yeah, that's a couple of comments here are a little bit dated now, so I'm not going to repeat them because now it doesn't matter. They were in response to something I said earlier in the show. TLM and Novus Ordo are both valid ways of celebrating the Mass. I have seen reverent and also awful examples of both. Same. Neither really have monopoly on the correct way or right to call the other of being wrong. True. The Novus Ordo and the traditional Latin Mass are both Roman Rite liturgies, okay? The traditional Latin Mass is an evolution of what the Mass was before, I forget the year now, before the traditional Latin Mass was codified. The old Mass was slightly different from the TLM, but the TLM is very similar to it. It's very similar to it. It's not identical, but it's very, very similar to it. But the TLM is a progression. The Novus Ordo is a progression of the Roman Rite, but it's not a change of the Roman Rite. It's still the Roman Rite, okay? There are better and more sloppy ways of celebrating the tradition, the Novus Ordo. That's the sad truth. I wish people would keep, celebrants and parishes would keep it very tight, throw a lot of Latin in there and stuff. Maybe we'll get to that. It is popping up. It is springing up. A more... The Novus Ordo celebrated in strict accordance. Now, there's a lot of latitude a celebrant has, or a diocese has, or parish has, in how the Novus Ordo is celebrated. But if you keep it tight to what the Vatican Council, I guess, put forward, the Novus Ordo, unless you know what you're looking at, looks very much like the traditional Latin Mass. I wish we could have something closer to that. But it's still a valid Mass, okay? Before I beat that horse to death, let me just keep moving forward. Trad Wolverine said the Didache, that's an early church source. Between 70 and 100 AD, the Didache was written. We don't know who wrote the Didache. Early on, it was believed that one of the apostles did, but we don't know that. So you can cough it up, or you can mark it as anonymous. But what we do know from the historical record, okay, from archaeology, it was very, very, almost certainly written by someone close to the church, not just, like an average layperson. But let's say it was written by just an average layperson. It doesn't matter, because you don't have to take theology from. I mean, you could, but you don't have to take theology from it. Really, don't take theology from it. But what you take from the Didache, which if you've never heard of that, it's spelled Didache, Didache. What you get from the Didache is what Catholicism, Christianity, looked like in the very early era of Christianity. What did it look like? What were Christians doing? What was regarded as normative and normal and natural in Christianity? Even if you don't take the theology that might be gleaned from the Didache, you still take an image of what the church was, and it looks strikingly similar to what the Catholic Church is today. You see that in a lot of early church writings, actually. Mountains of Facilium said, I use Mr. Fusion to power my home and to get electricity bills down. Yeah, you're going to have to hand one of those to me if you don't mind. But if you want, you can keep the Mr. Fusion. Just give me the DeLorean. That would be a fair deal. Catholics are part of the body of Christ, so that makes Mary our mother. True. I'm just going to move on, try it a little quickly. So we must honor our father and mother according to the Ten Commandments. Yeah, and somebody on, I think it was TikTok, might have been Facebook, I don't remember. Where does it say Christians should follow Mary? I'm just so tired of hearing dumb, stupid things like that. From this day forward, all generations will call me blessed. What do you make of that, Protestants? What do you make of that? We don't worship Mary, we venerate Mary. Please get the hell over it. I ask Protestants that don't believe the Eucharist if every Christian since the inception of Christianity believed the Eucharist was the real presence of our Lord. I ask Protestants that don't believe in the Eucharist if every Christian since Christianity believed in the Eucharist. Are you saying that Christianity went off the rails right from the jump and needed... Oh, I guess this is what Maury tells Protestants. Are you saying that Christianity went off the rails right from the jump and needed the reformers to correct it? Then I watched them intellectually tap dance the answer. That's literally my experience. Exactly as you just described. So you're telling me the Holy Spirit... Damn it. You're telling me the Holy Spirit waited 1,500 years after the resurrection to get it right? You're telling me the Holy Spirit enables the authoritative, personal, and private interpretation of the sacred scripture, canonized by the Catholic Church, but whatever. You're telling me the Holy Spirit has led to 30,000 non-Catholic Christian denominations because people are free to interpret on their own because the Holy Spirit enables private interpretation. 30,000 denominations? My friend, it sounds like the Holy Spirit is very, very confused. Or sola scriptura is a mistake. It is not Christian. It is an error. One of those two things is the truth. I'm sorry, and only one of those two things is the truth. There's no third option. Authority is in the Bible. Mountains of Vasilium, you're getting a lot of airtime today, so I'm going to skip to other commenters. I read like 3. This is okay. It's okay that you comment. I'm just kind of razzing myself there that I keep reading your comments. You and Maury are chatting up a storm. The Didache, Maury says, the Didache was very close to being in the New Testament, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. My guess is I don't think so. The funny thing about the Didache is if you read it, it looks like the New Testament. It looks eerily like the New Testament. But I think the Didache was discovered in the early to mid-1900s. Okay? Has scholarship produced the result that, it turns out the early church had not only had this, which it did, but it was considered for inclusion in the New Testament canon. I mean, has modern scholarship arrived there? I have no idea. But what I can tell you is the Didache is in in human history is a fairly recent discovery, and it's a valid discovery, okay? This is not like Catholic Church propaganda. I will also tell you the Didache, what's found in the Didache went into the formulation of the ordinary form Mass. The Novus Ordo is not prompted, but the Didache and other modern scholarship, valid scholarship, went into what the Novus Ordo is today. So when I tell people, the Novus Ordo is closer to the original Roman Mass than the traditional Latin Mass, they lose their minds. And I'm not saying it to hurt people's feelings. I'm just saying it because it's a matter of fact. They do not want to hear that the Novus Ordo is closer to the original Mass than the traditional Latin Mass. And if you're a traditional Latin Mass person, I'll say this. Okay, here's my compromise. Okay, maybe we can compromise this way. If you don't want to believe, and it's the truth, but if you don't want to receive it, that's up to you. If you don't want to receive that the Novus Ordo is closer to the original Mass than the TLM, okay, can we at least agree that the Novus Ordo is a reflection of the earliest Masses? Can we at least agree there? Because it's the truth. I'm not saying the traditional Latin Mass is invalid or inferior, none of that. But can we stop this nonsense that there's nothing traditional about the Novus Ordo, when technically its framework is older than that went into the TLM, which is very old. But the Novus Ordo's framework is older. Okay? Let's be friends, okay? Let's just let's agree on at least agree on that, okay? I'm not taking your Mass away from you. All right? One last thing from Trad Wolverine, because I haven't read many of what he put forward. Didache quotes. Oh, the Didache quotes Matthew like it was the only source available. Matthew is traditionally the first gospel and may indicate how early the Didache was. The Didache was very early. 70 to 100 AD, most scholars lean in the direction of 70 AD. So you could be right. I haven't read the Didache since the 90s, so I'm not going to speak too much about it because I don't want to talk about something that I don't know anymore what I'm talking about, because I haven't touched the Didache since, except maybe a couple of times for references, but I haven't read it, since the 90s. So there's that. All right. Catholic confidence and Catholic identity. So I told you about this story here on Bishops Take a Stand. There was another story. I'm not going to read the story. I just want to let you know that it's there because it's important. But now I can't remember what the hell it was. No! Give me just a second here, folks. I've already wasted enough time. Might as well waste another minute or two. Let me go here. Archive. There was another story. The Fathers Know Best. I published another Fathers Know Best series. In this one, this was a really good one. Usually with the Fathers Know Best series, I take a subject, like in this case, I think it was fidelity to the church or something, or fidelity to Rome, something like that. And I come up with something that one of the church fathers said about that, not just a little snippet, but like an extended quote. Okay, either like that or two of that size. And I explain what the church father is saying, and then I give my personal reflection on it. That's usually what the Fathers Know Best articles are. This one, I tie it into the situation going on between Rome, the Vatican, and the Society of St. Pius X, SSPX. St. Cyprian on fidelity to Rome. Wisdom of a church father and a juicy story from church history, and it is a juicy story from church history, tied into something we're seeing in Catholic news right now, the SSPX Vatican tension. That was a really good one. I usually don't tie it into something modern, but that one was just too juicy. I guess that's it. Hooked on headlines, I already told you about. I thought there was another story I wanted to tell you about, but I guess not. I apologize. Maybe I covered it and just forgot that I covered it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. This is the latest. Oh, I'm going to be publishing. There's a couple of articles that I'm going to publish that are really juicy, and at least one that might upset some Catholics. Look at my hair. This was like this when I went on the air, but I was already set to go and I couldn't go back and fix it. This is crazy. Usually my headset will cover up out of place hairs, but this time this one's like really coming out to play. Anyway, a couple of articles, one that might upset a couple of Catholics. I'm going to be honest, but I'm not doing it to upset Catholics. I did a video talking about how just recently, it was actually pretty fiery, talking about how some in the church, sometimes clergy, sometimes not, will say things like the church has broken from sacred tradition, or they'll strongly imply it. And I said, if anyone tells you that, they're lying. Some of them by accident, some of them on purpose. And that's the truth. I stand by that. I'm going to get some pushback on that. I'm sure. I expect it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an article showing some cases where that accusation has been made, that claim has been made, that we broke from, either made or strongly implied, I should say, that the church broke from sacred tradition. And then I'm going to explain why that is not true. And I'm going to stop short of saying, this is why that person knows it's not true. You need to reach out to them and ask them why they're saying that. But I don't want to do that. I don't want Catholic civil war. All right, so there's that. There was another one that I was going to post that I've been working on in bits and bytes, but I can't remember what it is now. Hang on just a second. Folks, when my wife texts me, I don't make her wait. Okay, that's a rule that you guys should follow. Never make your wife wait. Okay. This time I really have to start heading out of here. Hello to Richard Hogan. Join me there on Substack. Listen, as you can see now, I'm like divided across three different things, so I really should bring this to a close so I don't bore you guys to death. Usually I like to stay on for another couple of minutes after the show is technically over and chit-chat with the people on YouTube, but I'm just not going to have the time to do it now. But I do want to make this last appeal. I'm going to be posting some really good stuff. Everything I post on the Forge is good, but I'm going to be posting some really good stuff that I really don't want you to miss. And I cannot rely on the algorithm of social media to send it to you. Sometimes there will be videos or podcast episodes and stuff like that. I really want you to be part of the crew at theforge.fm. The FM stands for Fiat Media because the father of the Forge is a big-time Marian devotee. Theforge.fm. It's a Substack. If you're not familiar with that, it doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. There's also an app. The Substack app is really, really, really good. The podcasts play tremendously in there. The chatting is tremendous in there. Substack Notes is really, really great. And you don't have to do everything that the app can, offers. But at the very least, even if you don't download the app, come and check me out at theforge.fm. It's Catholic commentary at the point of impact. Catholic commentary that hits, baby. And I write good stuff there. I post my podcasts there. I do extra articles there. Like there's a couple of things related to this episode that I'm going to post to the Forge and so on and so on. I really want you to check it out because that's where I'm building my truth army here, theforge.fm. Okay, check it out. I know it's hard. It's hard to go from one platform to click out and go to another and this and that. And then it's like another thing that you have to sign up for, but it really is painless. But it's another thing that you have to sign up for. I understand the speed bump. I do get it. Okay. But believe me, it's worth it. Theforge.fm. Particularly because there's going to be things I'm going to post this week that I really, really don't want you to miss. I really don't want you to miss. And if you're relying on X or Facebook or any of the other socials to tell you about them, I'm going to tell you right now, this is factually speaking, 1% of you will be notified by the algorithm. 1% of you will be sent that post. But if you subscribe to me at theforge.fm, there is no algorithm. When I click publish, you get it in your inbox. If you have the Substack app, when I click publish, you not only get it in your inbox, you get an alert on the app, and then you can open the app and read it right in the app. You don't even have to go to the website. Okay? So that's really why I'm pushing you there. I don't want you to miss what I send out. I send out good stuff. Theforge.fm. Subscribe. It's free. It's free. And even if I start to do a paid tier, okay, I'm going to give a big fat discount to existing subscribers. Okay, if I start to do a paid tier, which I don't plan to, but it's a possibility, it'll be, deeply discounted for new subscribers, okay, for existing subscribers. Theforge.fm, and follow me everywhere at Real TJ Haynes. I'm sorry to bring this to such an abrupt close, I wish I could have hung out and chatted with you guys, but not in the cards today. I got life I got to tend to. I want to say thank you to everyone who caught me live, and thank you to all of you who caught me on demand. I hope you learned something. I hope I don't go back to edit this episode and I'm like, damn, I didn't really tie in that point very well. I hope you learned something. I hope this motivated you. I hope this inched you closer to Catholic confidence, nurtured your Catholic identity, and brought you a step closer to holiness and sainthood, your personal excellence. This has been Firebranded, available everywhere podcasts are found, and it is the flagship podcast of The Forge, which you will find at theforge.fm. I'm TJ Haynes. God bless you. God be with you all. Bye-bye.
I know this world can